Hello, welcome to class. A few reminders for class. All the assignments that are currently in Google Classroom are for this new grading period. A lot of students are still missing what influence did Islam have on either Africa, Europe, or Asia. You are welcome to still turn these in for full credit. Same with if you do an assignment and you don't get 100%. If you ever want to redo stuff, you are welcome to it. Just bear with me. It takes me a little bit of time to grade up makeup work. But please, we're officially halfway through this grading period, that please do not wait till the end of the grading period. Try to catch up on work now. It will help you in the long run. Feel free to ask me for questions at any point on a previous assignment. There are videos for just about every assignment you can use to help you. Last week we had a religion project. Many of you did very well. Some of you did lose points, and those who did lose points, it was mainly because you did not talk about 4 religions. So make sure you talk about 4 religions, not just one. But please, I beg you, I want you all to have good grades. Double check that all of your work is turned in. I kind of pointed out to classes, question of the day 2-4, which I believe is for tomorrow. No, today, sorry. I wrote a nice little checklist for you. Obviously, you can just put yes or no if you checked your grades, but kind of hang on to this. This is a really good checklist that really take the time to go through this. Maybe write it down on a piece of paper and check off, do I really have all these assignments? If you do every single one of these assignments, you will have 100% in my class. I did that for you just to kind of visualize what you have to do. Okay. So a few classroom reminders. You do have a Mastery Connect. How you get to Mastery Connect, if you go, it should be on your Chrome. It's not on mine because I'm a teacher. It should say Clever up here at the top. If it doesn't, just type the word Clever, Clever. Log in with your JCBS account. There should be a thing that says Mastery Connect. It looks like kind of like an app. You click on that. There should be 2 quizzes if you haven't done last week, which was SQ4. But you do have this one, this monotheistic religion quiz. I am treating it like an open book, meaning if you are struggling with it, you're allowed to use the slideshow that I have given you to help you. Okay, so take your time, really look back at that slideshow or maybe your project that you made to help you out with some of those questions. But please make sure you do. That is a master grade. It is a quiz. I don't want your grade to suffer because of that. So please make sure you do that. In class today, we did this assignment called Europe Structure. So it should look like this. Obviously, yours is not filled in. So 6 boxes and a slideshow. Please make sure you are actually referring to the slideshow. So what we are learning, we are switching gears. We are now starting what is called the Middle Ages. It used to be called Medieval Ages. So if you've ever heard of medieval times or knights and castles, kings and queens, that's basically the Middle Ages. It has just changed terms. So before we get into medieval or the Middle Ages, we first have to understand how was Europe structured. So I pretty much have told every class that Europe up until this point was very chaotic. It was very violent because we had a lot of different tribes. There wasn't unity. So we didn't have countries. We didn't have France, Russia, Germany. We didn't have these countries. So it was very chaotic for people. A lot of people started fleeing to the countrysides to kind of live on their own. But because of that, they kind of risked their life by doing that. So a man named Constantine, you're going to see his name pop up a lot, Charlemagne, pops in to kind of unite Europe. So we had 2 things that happened. Europe gets structured politically and religiously. So what you have to do, and I beg you, I know we get in the habit of just wanting to copy what I have written, but please take the time to really try it on your own. You will learn a lot more by doing this on your own. For each slide, you're going to read this and then summarize it in your own words. So it's similar, like if you were to read this and then tell a best friend, like, hey, this is what I learned from this slide. That is what you would write. Okay, so it's kind of like pulling out what you think is important. Okay, so we did this together in class. So this is what some of your classmates came up with. So I recommend if you are going to copy, do it at the end, see what you can do on your own, And then if you're really struggling, like say religion number 2, you didn't understand it, then look at this and try to see what I have written. But for political, so this is some of the classmates and stuff they've written. This was not written by me, it was written by other students. So slide 1 was really talking about the leader was trying to protect, was trying to raise an army. So notice some keywords you see a lot of students wrote. So uniting, protection. So this leader named Constantine politically was trying to unite people, and he was doing it through raising an army and protection. So kind of how I stated before, Europe was really chaotic. So this man named Constantine is going to come in and try to protect people. So this time period, you're going to hear that word a lot, protection, 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 because it was really important in that time period. And he also really united people, which is why Europe now still has a lot of its different countries. Political 2, that one was a little bit shorter. The leader was able to convert almost the entire empire to Christianity. That Constantine was really smart, that he said, hey, the best way to unite people was through Christianity. This is true even today, that most countries that are successful, it's because they unite under one religion. Source 3 talked about this idea called feudalism, which we will spend a lot more time next week. But feudalism was this idea of a mutual agreement that the lords were given land and money, and they would offer protection to people that lived in the land. So it talked about peasants. So peasants in exchange could live on that land if they worked for the lord. So it's kind of this agreement that, hey, I'll help you, I'll protect you as long as you farm and provide me with food. We then looked at the religion part. A lot of the religion slides kind of intertwine. So the first one, what different students pulled out was everyday life revolved around the church. It's going to talk about how they prayed 5 times a day. Or I'm sorry, they go to church 5 times a day. It's going to talk about taxes. That slide talks about 10% of their money goes to the church. That's a lot of money. So everyday life revolved around the church. And that's going to be really important later on. And we'll get to that starting next week. But everyday life revolves around the church. Number 2 is probably the one most people struggled with. So try this, and if you don't understand vocabulary, it's okay. The church started to get greedy. So the church started getting power, and they did this thing called excommunication. Because everyone's lives revolved around the church, excommunication is kind of like expelling. So like if I were to expel you from school, the church had the power to excommunicate you from church, which meant you couldn't go to church. And if you were a person that didn't go to church, that usually meant people didn't trade. They wouldn't let you live on their land. You weren't allowed to get married. You weren't allowed to have a funeral. So letting the church have that power to say, hey, I don't like you, I'm going to excommunicate you, that gave them a lot of power. And that's going to play a big role later on when we learn about the Middle Ages, that the church is going to get a little bit too much power. Religion 3, again, is still going to talk about everyday life revolved around the church. It gives an example that church offers education, which means it's going to have a huge bias. They were big about making decisions, and people blamed the church for everything. So if you got sick or there was a storm or a famine, it was blamed on God, which again, that's going to be later on a huge effect. So if you're really struggling, this is a good chance to kind of hit pause so you can see my screen. Let's go down just a little bit. But again, please try to put things in your own words. Please try to go back to this slideshow and read it on your own and summarize it on your own. Lastly, this last thing, because I usually put this at the bottom of an assignment, I just put it in a different content area. You were writing a paragraph explaining basically what you learned today, that how was Europe structured politically and religiously. So I want you to refer back to this or refer back to the slideshow. That maybe you want to talk about just the religion part because that made sense, or maybe you just want to talk about the political, or maybe you want to talk about both. But what I do not want you to do is please don't just copy and paste this whole thing. Try to write a complete paragraph of putting things in your own words of saying, Europe was structured politically and religiously by, and give me some examples in your own words. Okay, and once you do that, you just hit turn in, make sure you do your questions of the day, and otherwise you are good for this week. Again, I can't remind you enough, please make sure you look up any missing or late work. I do have office hours. You can message me and I can try to help you. Okay, bye.